This is going to be a recorded presentation, just so we can put this in our website for all of you to peruse again if you are interested in watching this content again. So I will be turning off my camera just so it saves a little bit of bandwidth and so it's not so distracting. All right, let us begin. All right, so we are going to be presenting to you information about the California DREAM Act Service Incentive Grant, or DSIG. We have a mixed audience with us today. We have some high school counselors as well as college financial aid staff. Therefore, this session will provide both a program overview as well as training content for college financial aid administrators working with web grants. And if you haven't already noticed, your audio is muted to eliminate background noise. And if you have any questions, if you could please type that into the Q&A window as opposed to the chat box. We have many CSAC staff available to answer your questions in real time. If you do put them in the chat, we are going to give you a gentle reminder to please put them in the Q&A box. That way we just have an organized place to answer your questions. The PDF of this webinar was emailed to all of you, I believe, yesterday. So if you did not receive that PDF, please check your spam or junk box. If not, please email training@csac.ca.gov to request a PDF of today's webinar. And then towards the end of our webinar, if we have enough time, we can answer live questions by raising your hand if time permits. All right, let us get started. So we are going to begin with some updates. Hopefully you've already been receiving our listserv alerts and announcements. If not, please be sure to register for our listserv. So this slide mostly pertains to our college financial aid staff. But again, this is all just good information for all of you here today. So this special alert is from August 2nd. This is reminding educators of upcoming DSIG deadlines that correspond with closing out the academic year. Students have until June 28th to submit a DSIG application and to complete their DSIG service hours. However, we have confirmed with the DSIG team that they will accept them for up until June 30th. Our second deadline date right here is September 20th. This is the deadline for DSIG students to submit a payment request, as well as the deadline for institutions to submit Cal Grant payments or adjustments. So in the midst of all these deadlines, we just want to have you reach out to your students to remind them to wrap up any of their DSIG hours and submit any pending payment requests before these deadline dates. All right, moving on to some DSIG program overview. So to start off, what is DSIG? So DSIG is short for DREAM Act Service Incentive Grant, which allows California DREAM Act application students or CADAA students with a Cal Grant B award or a Cal Grant A award that meet Cal Grant B eligibility to volunteer for up to 300 hours at qualifying organizations and earn financial aid money to apply towards tuition. Now, what is that award amount that they'll get through this program? There are 1,667 spots available each year, and students earn up to $4,500 per year. Students at semester schools will receive 2 payments of up to $2,250, and students at quarter schools will receive 3 payments of up to $1,500 each. How many hours must students complete through the DSIG program? So the program consists of 300 hours of volunteer service to be completed within the academic year, which is July 1st through June 30th of the next following year. And then finally, where can students volunteer? Students can volunteer with any qualifying service organization, which consists of nonprofits, federal, state, or local government entities, and any school on the Cal Grant eligible schools list. We'll show you what that schools list or that eligible list will look like in a couple of slides, but this is the big overview of DSIG. Now, what is the eligibility requirements that students must fulfill in order to apply for the DSIG program? So eligible students must apply with the CADAA and the DSIG applications annually. They must attend a qualifying institution, have sufficient unmet financial need, which is at least $4,500 plus the unmet need required to have been awarded the Cal Grant B. And then they must complete community or volunteer service hours in that academic year. Students will need to complete 300 hours of community or volunteer service and can volunteer with any of the organizations on the list of service organizations or with any organization not already on the list if it meets the criteria for a qualifying service organization. Organizations not on the list of service organizations can complete and submit a service organization registration form found on the DSIG forms webpage. Now, what is a qualifying community or service organization? It's listed right here on the screen for you, but basically it's any school on the Cal Grant eligible schools list, including external partners or external affiliates. They could be nonprofit as defined in sections 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. They can be any federal, state, or local government entity. Any work performed should not be in advocacy of a political, social, or religious nature. And then finally, volunteer service is related to the participating students' field of study or is in furtherance of community service or need. Just a quick FYI, a qualifying organization must have been established for a minimum of 2 years before students begin volunteering at that organization. And so if organizations are interested in becoming a part of this list, if they are not already, they can submit organization registration form to register as a qualifying organization. And that form is there on the screen. CSAC will verify that the organization meets the above criteria and then work with them to be part of the service organization list. And this is what that list looks like. This is the current list of approved DSIG service organizations. This is just a partial image. There are over 4 pages of organizations on the full list. Cal Grant eligible schools are automatically eligible, but they are not included on this list of service organization, just as an FYI. But again, Cal Grant eligible schools are already approved. So if your student is interested in volunteering at any Cal Grant eligible school, if they're interested in volunteering at their school, they would be approved. Another reason why DSIG may appeal to some of our students and why it makes sense for some of your students, students without a DACA or a Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals Social Security number, they may not be eligible to work in the United States, but they are eligible for education grants. Now, DSIG affords students the opportunity to earn money to cover tuition while concurrently gaining important work or life experience and on-the-job training. These partnerships could also lead to work connections and networks that provide beneficial later in life. And then on the next couple of slides, we'll see what CSAC tools you can use for outreach to promote DSIG to your students. We've made it easy for you. You can just download everything and then post them everywhere. And then these are some of the valuable experience and life skills that students are getting through their volunteer experience, interview skills, interpersonal skills, first of all, time management, professionalism, just everything. They're getting their foot into the outside world. So it's a really great opportunity that they are getting these volunteer service hours and then getting paid on the back end of it. Now, if you were not aware, the California DREAM Act application that opened last year, the new one, now ask whether students are interested in being considered for DSIG. Now, this does not, when they answer yes on this question, this does not enroll them into the DSIG program. It just puts them on a list that they are interested in learning more about DSIG. And so it is a great outreach opportunity for your financial aid office to reach out to these students and then give them all of the information that could be part of DSIG and then help them out with that process. If you need web grants access, please contact your campus web grants system administrator. Each campus should have 2 individuals with granting access to onboard new web grants users. And then for any web grant system admins on the line today, please consider giving reports access or sharing the reports to the Dreamer resource centers for outreach purposes so you can reach out to students interested in DSIG and then help them out with that process. So this is what that web grants layout looks like. So for example, college web grants users with access can pull the 2024-2025 Cal ISER report to identify interested students, and that's what it looks like. So this report is still being developed, which we estimate it will be completed by late August. So please stay tuned to our listserv for the announcement once it's live. That's our listserv is our main mode of communication for everything. So please make sure that you are subscribed to that so you don't miss anything. And then a couple slides ago, I mentioned that qualifying organizations cannot have students perform work in an advocacy of a political, social, or religious nature. Here are some of the examples of the types of volunteer work that students can participate in. So they could be as small and easy as answering phones, covering front desk, doing some administrative paperwork tasks. They could be even more involved by being part of the career education and other outreach events, be part of any event planning, be part of Cash for College workshops. We really welcome volunteers and we're really grateful for them, especially during Cash for College season. Data collection, assisting with research. If you have students who are in the science or psychology field who are just breathing research and data, reach out to them if you have any inklings of those type of opportunities. And then if you have students who are on the creative end of things, they could be creating flyers, designing any web or graphic designs that this organization might need. So be creative and think outside the box when either identifying potential on-campus jobs or in working with external organizations. There are a multitude of different ways students can be volunteering. And then this is what I was talking to you about, the promotional materials. There are trifold brochures and flyers available to post and distribute during financial aid events and at Dreamer resource centers or elsewhere on campus. These informational materials can be found on the URL found on the screen. We've made everything easy and informational for you. We're giving you DSIG FAQs, any other questions that they might need to know. It's all there for you to print and then just give out. All right, moving on, I'm going to be talking to you about the application process for DSIG. So for step 1, student applies to the DSIG program. So this is a quick flow chart of the student application process. So to start off, the student is going to download the application via the CSAC website. Then they're going to need to have their financial aid office and service organization complete their respective sections before signing and submitting the application to CSAC. Once CSAC receives and processes the application, we will confirm that both the student and the organization are eligible to participate. If eligible, the data will be inputted into WebGrants, and then the student and the organization will then receive a welcome email with information on next steps. If the student is found ineligible CSAC will contact them about eligibility requirements that they need to take or further steps that they need to take in order to be eligible for DSIG. This is what that DSIG application looks like. Again, you can just pull that application from this link here. And this application has 4 sections. Section 1, this is where the student will fill out all of their student demographic information. And then for section 2, they're going to hand it to a financial aid administrator where they're going to fill out the school of attendance information. And then from there, section 3 is completed by the service organization. They're going to fill out all of the service organization information pertaining to them. They can put up to 2 staff members to be listed on the DSIG application as certifying officials, and only those 2 officials may sign the service hours tracker. And then finally, section 4, that's the student agreement. They must be checked, signed, and dated by the student, and completed forms are emailed to the DSIG inbox, dsig@csac.ca.gov. So we have been getting a few common DSIG application mistakes, many of which are listed or are put here on the screen for you. But sometimes students only complete section 1, or they may provide some information in sections 2 and 3, but don't have all of the signatures from the financial aid administrator or the 2 certifying official signatures right here. Other common DSIG mistakes, boxes in section 4, the student agreement. Not all of them are checked, or some of them are checked. The student is not a CADAA filer. Again, DSIG is only for CADAA filers. And another common mistake is the student did not list their major or their field of study. So it's, as much as possible, have your student fill out the form, get all the signatures that need to be signed, and then make sure everything is accurate before sending it to the DSIG inbox. So these are the next steps once the student has been accepted and found eligible and then accepted to the DSIG program. The students will receive a welcome email from CSAC. A notification is also sent to the financial aid administrator and service organization. If the grant application is incomplete, CSAC will contact the student to make corrections and to resubmit their grant application. So we don't want that. We don't want any delays in starting their service hours. We want them to get it started as soon as possible, as soon as their application is complete. So we want to make sure that students are filling out that grant application as much as they can. And then once they've gotten their welcome emails, they can now start volunteering. Students and or the service organization must use the service hours tracker to document service hours performed. And that form is linked right here for you. And then I'll show that what that looks like in the next screen. And then they'll start volunteering. And then finally comes a point where the student requests payment. Students can request payment after performing at least 150 hours at a semester school or at least 100 hours at a quarter school of community or volunteer service. And the hours for the year end of the academic year, which is June 30th. And then this is what that service tracker form looks like. The service organization must sign for approval of all completed volunteer hours. Up to 2 authorized individuals can be listed on the DSIG application as approved signers on the service hours tracker, and only those 2 can sign it. Again, just to reiterate, after completing each block of 150 hours at a semester school or 100 hours at a quarter school, students can submit the payment request form and the service hours tracker to CSAC, as we'll see in the next couple of slides. So the takeaway here is for every payment request form that a student sends in, they must attach the hours tracker to prove that they completed this many hours and then request their payment from there. All right, so we've kind of hit the halfway point of this webinar. I did see some Q&A pop up. Thank you for that. If you have any other questions, please don't be shy and put that in the Q&A box. Again, if you did not receive a PDF of this webinar, please email training@csac.ca.gov to request a copy for that. All right, so we are going to take a quick 5-minute break and then we are going to resume with the second half of this presentation. Victoria will take over. It is currently 2:23 on my clock, 5 minutes up. Let's come back at 2:28. All right, thank you everybody. Let's see each other at 2:28. Thank you.
All right, welcome back everyone from break. If you can hear me, please open up your chat box and let me know your favorite ice cream flavor. It's been super hot here again in Sacramento, so definitely a go-to for cooling off. I see pistachio, mint chocolate chip, coffee, Rocky Road, chocolate, bean vanilla, Oreo, that's a good one, ube, coconut pineapple, that's different. I like that. Awesome. We got some ice cream lovers with us, so always a good crowd to have around. My favorite is chocolate chip cookie dough. So I think we all need an ice cream stop after work today. All right, so my name is Victoria Vixney. I'm another trainer with the Student Aid Commission, and we are going to jump into the second half of today's presentation. I am going to turn off my camera. I find it distracting, and we will get going. All right. So Tharisha did a really good job providing an overview of the DSIG program and the steps to get started for the student, how they participate in the program. So now I'm going to be talking about the payment process. So to qualify for the maximum payments for DSIG, the student needs to complete that 300 hours. It's going to look different depending on which school the student is attending, so a semester school versus a quarter school. At a semester school, the student is going to be waiting until they complete 150 hours, and then at that point, they can request their first payment. At a quarter school, we're looking at 100-hour increments for payment requests. Now, something else to keep in mind is that the payment request needs to happen after a Cal Grant payment has been posted to the student's account. So that is something that needs to happen before the DSIG payment can be paid to the student. But for the most part, I mean, with this amount of hours, even if they started as soon as they could in the summer, July 1st, most likely they'll be, working on these hours into the fall and be able to request their payment after they hit that minimum. All right, and then this is the flow chart of what the student request payment process looks like. So the student is going to download a payment request form from our website and complete their student portion. You may notice as I'm going through the flow chart that this is very similar to when they're applying to the program, and that's because they're kind of going back to all the same people to get the information to be able to send to CSAC. So they'll have the financial aid office and the service organization complete their own section, sign and date the form, and then we also need documentation of those hours. So Dorisha showed the screenshot of the service hour tracker, so we'll need that. Then they'll submit the payment request form and the documentation of hours to our DSIG inbox. At that point, our DSIG team will process it and verify if the student is eligible for payment. If they're not, then student is notified to resubmit or denied for payment. So they do work with the students one-on-one to figure out their situation. But if they are approved, then the payment amount is validated and CSAC is going to request the check from the state controller's office. Once the check is received, the student and financial aid administrator will be notified via email that the payment request is approved and the next step instructions. The institutions ultimately will receive the check with DSIG disbursement guidelines, and the school will notify the student that the check is available for pickup or disperse into the student account. I'm going to walk through each of these steps with some screenshots in more detail since that is a lot of information all at once. So here's a screenshot of what the payment request form looks like. And as I mentioned, it does look pretty similar to the application to apply for DSIG. But this is the payment request form specifically, and this is what the students will be filling out and then taking to their financial aid office and to their service organization. Very important that they're submitting this and that service hours tracker that has been signed by their certifying official. 300 hours must be completed within the school year. So students can start right now. If you are already working with some students, they can be working towards their hours to go towards their first payment. And then the deadline to request DSIG payments is the same date as year-end reconciliation. So for this year that we just concluded, you have until September 20th to request a payment. Students who volunteer at more than one organization must also submit a payment request supplemental form. So that's also on our website. So they'll be able to access it there if they are volunteering at more than one organization. After the students email their payment request to dsig@csac.ca.gov, the checks will be processed and mailed to schools within 4 to 6 weeks. So unfortunately, it is still a manual process since it is a small program, so the turnaround time is a little bit longer. And then CSAC will notify schools and students of pending payments. The initial DSIG payment will occur after student receives at least one Cal Grant A or B payment. So this means that a Cal Grant payment must occur for each DSIG check. In other words, students must receive the Cal Grant payment for every term that they participate in DSIG. So in the scenario that a student completes all 300 hours in the fall term, say they started right away and then they're in the summer and they were able to work maybe 40 hours a week, that would add up really, really quick for the 300 hours. However, with the model of needing to have a Cal Grant disbursement for each DSIG payment, they will need to wait to get their DSIG payment after a Cal Grant payment has occurred. So a little bit of timing wise, it does take more of the entire school year to be paid the full DSIG amount. So just something to be aware of if you are working with students who are wanting to volunteer basically full-time July and August. Just make sure that they know they won't be getting that money all at once. It will come in the form of a payment in the spring or winter quarter, depending on if they're at a quarter or semester school. And then so just as a reminder, the payments are paper checks and they will be mailed out to your school's financial aid office, and the checks are made out to the student in care of the institution. Now, since this program has been around for a couple years, we do have a reconciliation process. So you will be needing to reconcile the Dream Act Service Incentive Grant DSIG funds. So this is if you're at a financial aid office, this is important to listen to. So this process is a little bit different from our Cal Grant reconciliation process since Cal Grant is such a larger program. There's not a whole lot to DSIG reconciling, but the key part of it is that you should be saving the weekly approved payment confirmation emails sent by our DSIG department. And then at year end, you'll cross-reference your school ledgers with the checks received. And we recommend that you retain scanned copies of all checks. So before you disperse them or have students pick them up, make sure you're scanning a copy. And then you'll just want to account for any returned or reissued checks. So really just knowing how much money came in and where that money went. That's the key with this reconciliation. And if you have any discrepancies, you'll want to work with our DSIG team so you can email them and they'll be able to help you out. And because the number of students for DSIG is so much lower, this process is more manual. However, hopefully it's easier to track. So a little bit more manual work, but much smaller scale, which is good. Some common payment request mistakes that we see. Luckily, our DSIG team is amazing, so they will work with your students, but it does streamline the process and make it faster for students to get their money, of course, if they submit everything correctly up front. So just some things to point out if you are helping a student submit their payment request. Issues with the payment request form itself. So sometimes students will just email the team and tell them that they completed the required hours. That's great, except we do need that official form. So please make sure they know where that's located on our website. If they're applying and you're approving their application or filling out the financial aid office part of their application, more likely, then you can also point out, okay, so your next step, once you complete your hours, this is where the payment request form is. We have a dedicated DSIG student page on our website, so that can be really helpful. And then we also see they resubmit the grant application. So as I mentioned, they do look pretty similar. So our coordinator has seen students just resubmit the grant application instead of the payment request form. The other big category of payment request mistakes is our issues with proof of hours, and that's the service hours tracker. So sometimes students have not completed the minimum block of hours to qualify for a payment. So either the 150 for a semester school or the 100 hours for a quarter school. We've also seen where the certifying official signature is missing. So we want to make sure that the CO who signed off on the grant application is signing that service hours tracker. So if the CO does not sign the service hours tracker, that is incomplete and we cannot accept that as proof of hours. And then that brings me to the third mistake, just completely missing the proof of hours. So only submitting the payment request and not the service hour tracker. So we want to make sure that the student is submitting both of those forms so that our DSIG team can review and process and get that payment started so that the state controller's office can send the money as soon as possible. So then when it comes to the payment process, once we've been able to approve the student, our responsibilities at the commission is to confirm the student received a Cal Grant A or B payment, certify that the required volunteer service hours were fulfilled at a qualifying organization. Then we will issue a check in the student's name in care of the college, and we will email the student and the financial aid administrator who signed the payment request after checks have been mailed. On the financial aid office side, we request that you work your rosters as normal, report student enrollment, and pay their Cal Grant accordingly each term, since that's what allows them to have a DSIG payment go through. And then notify students once checks are available for pickup or disbursement into the student account at your institution. However, we do request that you follow your campus Cal Grant access policy, which I'll talk about on this next slide. So with our Cal Grant program for Cal Grant B, there is an access award, and we request that because the DSIG payments are actually an increase to the student access awards, they do need to align with your published institutional policies for Cal Grant B access, even if the DSIG participant is a Cal Grant A recipient. So what am I talking about here? With Cal Grant B access funds, it is established within the Cal Grant program that the access funds need to be offered to the student directly, since they are not earmarked for tuition and fees. However, you can have an institutional policy of asking the student for their written consent for the school to apply the access funds towards any school balance. So this can be common, especially if you have on-campus housing. So Cal Grant tuition and fees is only going to pay a portion, and then the student may have on-campus housing balance. So you can ask for written consent to apply the access funds to their housing. However, it does have to be given, the student does have to have the choice to be able to receive the funds directly. So that's where, because DSIG is considered an increase to access awards, then the student also needs to have the same option to have the funds go directly to them, or to provide written consent to apply to any school balance. So I know that can be a little bit confusing, and feel free to put any questions in the Q&A, and my amazing colleagues will continue to answer them. Okay, so now I'm going to point out some other employment and jobs programs opportunities for our CADAA students. So with our CADAA students, if they don't have DACA, then they don't necessarily have work authorization. So that's why we want to make sure they know of every opportunity possible so that they can earn more money and be able to have more of their college expenses paid for. One of these options is Californians for All College Corps. This can pay up to $10,000 and actually potentially some academic credit to about 6,500 undergraduate students who complete 450 hours of volunteer service. This is relatively new and it's actively growing. I think it rolled out at 45 college campuses a couple years ago, and I know they are looking to expand to more campuses. So definitely check out their website and see if you're able to promote this for your students. Our AB 540 Dreamers are eligible to participate, but they will apply first through DSIG. So you'll want to advise them to apply through DSIG and then apply for Californians for All College Corps. And $10,000 is a good amount. So hopefully lots of our students will be able to take advantage of it. Immigrants Rising also has fellowship opportunities. We love partnering with Immigrants Rising. Their website has so many resources to download, and for your students, they can check out the list of scholarships and fellowships. And then we just want to point out, so we did have another program you may have heard about, the Learning Aligned Employment Program, or LAPE. That was introduced in the 2021-2022 school year. This program, LAPE, was for students with work authorization, so any student that had DACA could be eligible for it. We were really excited. We were watching it grow and expand on all of our campuses, but then due to the budget deficit, they actually cut this program prematurely. So it already sunset as of this past school year, so 23-24. And we just wanted to throw that in here for this presentation as a reminder that unfortunately all of our programs are dependent on the California budget and the legislature. So just a big push for any students who are on the, not so sure if DSIG or one of these other programs are right for them, to go ahead and apply, explore the option, and use the money before maybe it gets pulled away. Also, promoting DSIG is a really good way to ensure funding continues, because if we can show there's a need for it and that students are interested in it, then that's really good for continuing to get that funding every year. So just a plug and a reminder that our budget is influenced by the California state budget. Okay, so now moving into some resources. As I mentioned, we have a lot of resources on our website. We have a DSIG overview for students page that has specific FAQs and brochures. And then this is where all the forms are going to be for the grant application and also the payment request. Then we have an overview for institutions page. So this is program information, financial aid administrator brochures, and FAQ for institutions. So a lot of the questions you've been asking is what went into the FAQ. So definitely check it out if you have something that comes up after today. And then you can always contact our team at dsig@csac.ca.gov. Just a screenshot of what that website looks like for students. So there's the grant application, the supplemental application, payment request, and the supplemental payment request. So that's if students are working volunteering at more than one organization. And then if the student wants to volunteer at an organization that is not registered yet, then their organization can complete this application. And then here's that service hours tracker. They'll need the certifying official to sign off on their hours each time. And then a screenshot of the FAQ, several pages. It's been updated, I think, a few times. So also a good resource for your students and to have at your being able to look at as well if you need to. And then FAQ specifically for institutions. This does have more information for the financial aid offices, but could be really helpful to any of our Dreamer resource staff or outreach and admissions. So still a good resource. Okay, and then we always promote our CSAC listserv. This is how we are staying in communication with you all. So if you haven't registered yet, please, please, please subscribe. You can check just the ones that are important for your position. We do have a specific California Dream Act application, AB 540 listserv. So don't feel like you need to sign up for all of them. We don't send out too many. I think we did just send out a few all at once because our website is going through some updates right now. So we had a few in the queue that finally got pushed out. But for the most part, it's not overwhelming and it's really a good way to stay updated. We offer several different training formats. So right now you're attending one of our weekly live webinars. We are going to start our statewide financial aid training at the end of this month. We actually have our events.com registration site ready to go. So we'll be sending out a listserv for that and also a MailChimp message for registration. Our regional trainings, this is a three-part series designed for financial aid administrators. It's really good for anyone new in the field and then also anyone looking for a refresher on certain programs and our Cal Grant program. We are offering these all virtually now, so definitely sign up if you are interested. Our YouTube channel, we have tons of videos on there. We have some short ones if you need a quick refresher, and then we also have some of our full-length webinars recorded. We do need to update a lot of them, so that's been one of our projects this summer before we start with our traveling season. Cash for College workshops, these are free to assist students and families with completing the FAFSA, CADAA, and the Chafee grant application. If you've hosted or volunteered at one, you know how important and helpful these can be. And then the Train the Trainer workshops, this is for anyone who's interested in hosting their own Cash for College. Our CSAC staff train and prepare you to host your own. And then for ad hoc training, if you would like us to present virtually at any of your events, please reach out. You can email us and we'll send you a training request form. At this time, with our restricted travel budget, we are only doing virtual presentations. So I mentioned the statewide financial aid workshops. Oh yeah, and we have our link already. So that's great. So if you receive this PDF, feel free. This is maybe one of the first places that's going out publicly. So you'll get first in line your pick of workshop. So feel free to click that link and register. We do have not as many in person, but we're still doing a pretty good job covering the state. And then we have several virtual Zoom webinars. So feel free to sign up and put that on your calendar. And then for the regional trainings, we have them coming up at the end of this month, August 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. So definitely sign up, and this will be our final series for the 23-24 year, and then we'll gear up for 24-25. Cash for College. So as I mentioned, these are super helpful for students to complete the application and get the help they need. We are offering some virtual ones for statewide August 14th, the 21st, and the 29th. And then many of our partners throughout the state are still offering in person. So feel free to check out our website and see if there's one near you if you're wanting to volunteer or to have your students and families attend if they're still needing to submit their application. The Cal Grant Handbook is a great place for lots of information about our Cal Grant program. It is getting updated. I think we've said that every webinar for a while now, but it's going through the final review process. And then I think the goal is that every year it's getting updated depending on any changes with the budget or the legislature. And so stay tuned. But right now, what's up there on our website is still really helpful and gives you a really good background and understanding of the program. We have CSAC social media toolkits. We have a specific Dream Act Service Incentive Grant Program toolkit. We really need to build this program up. So it is underutilized right now. So anything you can do to promote it on your campus and to get more students interested. Luckily now we have that question on the CADAA so we can have a dedicated list of students who have already said they're interested and we can do targeted outreach to those students. But definitely posting on any of your social media channels can be a huge help. And then we also have other toolkits and PSAs and graphics, so feel free to grab those. We don't need you to come up with your own fancy stuff. We are providing it for you, so definitely take advantage. And then we have our own social media platforms, our Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. You may have seen that we are going viral more and more often. So we love our marketing team doing a really great job of getting the information out there, especially during the really hard year that we just had. So definitely give us a follow and encourage your students to follow us. Okay, and with that, it looks like we're doing pretty good on Q&A. So I'll just let my colleagues finish answering the last couple questions. And I will leave you all with our contact information. So if you have any questions that come up after today, please feel free to reach out. You can reach out to our general school support line or email, or specifically to DSIG or to us at training@csac.ca.gov. And if you have no other questions, I hope you have a great rest of your day and maybe go get some ice cream. You all had so many delicious flavors. So definitely have a good evening and we will see you at our next training. Thanks, everyone.